Today we're talking dairy. Dairy is a food that we want to respect. We don't want to condemn it, but we also don't want to abuse it. It's really important to understand the role that dairy plays in our lives, especially during the spring and summer.
The Dairy Council did a great job with their Got Milk campaign, and they even paid their way onto the food pyramid as their own food group. But in our opinion, dairy isn't its own food group. It's not necessary. It's to be used sparingly and of high quality.
And the energy of dairy is building. It helps build and grow babies. It's absolutely incredible. It's also really great for pregnant mothers or breastfeeding mothers because it has that energy. But if you're not looking to grow your body any bigger or any tumors or polyps or cysts in the body, then dairy is not for you.
And it's been used traditionally for thousands of years since the agricultural revolution. But back then, they would take the milk from the animal and drink it right away, or they would ferment it or sour it into kefir or yogurt or cheese. And nowadays, to keep the shelf life of milk, we are ultra pasteurizing our milk. And so this is killing off all the enzymes and all the bacteria in the milk that was healthy for us in the beginning.
And one specifically is the enzyme that helps us digest lactose, which is called lactase. So without the lactase to digest, we become lactose intolerant. So that is not your fault. That is because the milk doesn't have the enzyme because it's been pasteurized. So to help out, maybe go for some raw milk that you can get straight from your farmer or some raw cheese that still has that enzyme in it so that your body can easily digest it. Also, if you have a dairy allergy, it's usually to the casein, which is the protein strand in milk, and cow's milk specifically. So you could go for sheep or goat's milk, which doesn't have that same strand of protein, and potentially digest that easier.
And once we went through that whole fat-free stage, the Dairy Council said, we can stay relevant. We're going to skim all the fat out of the milk. And so what this did was took everything that we wanted from that milk to begin with. Plus, it's going to taste terrible. So now they have to add sugar into it and refortify it with vitamins and nutrients because they pulled everything out with the fat. And when you pull the fat off, what are you left with? Just the liquid and pus from an animal. We really don't need it.
So really what we're saying here is that quality of your dairy is so key. We want to make sure it's full fat, it's pasture raised, it's absolutely gorgeous. Like even in your cheeses, look at these gorgeous cheeses that are going to taste incredible, and so many of us love it so much. Some of us might even feel that we have a bit of a cheese addiction, and that makes sense because there's a natural opioid in all dairy. So it's naturally addicting because it helps the baby become addicted to eating so that it can survive. Also, dairy energetically has this warming and loving kind of connotation to it because that's what we're used to when we're a baby. We're being held by our mother, we're being fed, we're safe, unconditional love. That is what dairy does for us. So it's something to pay attention to.
And that Got Milk campaign also tried to tell us that milk was the way to get your calcium. But we're here to tell you there's so many ways to get calcium through leafy greens and strawberries and broccoli. These foods are really high in calcium. Your body knows how to take it in and digest it. They're really good. So get your calcium that way. And maybe you've been told or a family member's been told to take calcium supplements. Well, we're giving people too much calcium and your body can't take it, your bones can't take it, and it actually starts to deposit into the bones and harden. And so this is making brittle, hard bones. And what happens when you hear somebody falls over and they break their hip? It just shatters. It's because their bones are too hard. We want soft, spongy, flexible bones that can take a fall. So to learn how to get bones like that, maybe look back at our winter episode on bone broth or our spring episode on celery juice. And these are the ways to nurture your bones.
And because dairy is actually very inflammatory, so on the outside it might be basic, when we digest it, it actually becomes inflammatory, which creates, or acidic, which creates inflammation. So if we're looking at bone health, we don't want to be adding acidity and inflammation to them. Also, if you have a heart condition or diabetes, you have excess heat in the body, we don't want to be adding more acidity and inflammation. Instead, we want to be going more towards the alkaline side, which is what we find in plants. So if you want to substitute some of your dairy for plants, you could do great great nut milks. You could do some cool oat milks, or you can even buy it in the store, but just know that when they're trying to replicate something like milk, you need to be very careful of other additives and things that are going to change textures and flavors. So be very careful and preservatives in things like nut milks.
One nut milk that we found at the store that we approve of is this Malk, and it's just nuts, water, and salt, and that's it. And that's what we show you how to do yourself at home. It's so easy. So head on over to simply-seasonal.com and you can get this recipe, sign up for emails, and yeah.
Well, that sounds simple enough.
Because it's Simply Seasonal. Not milk.
This is so good.
It's delicious.
It's so creamy. This actually tastes like milk. It's so good. It's just cashews, water, salt.
Are you nuts?
My milk is. Get the recipe on our website. And it's not something that we should abuse, but it's really important to understand.
Bodhi turned the camera for us.